Welcome, everyone. I am Jose Garcia Moreno. I'm the director of the Academy of Catholic Thought and Imagination here at Loyola Marymount University. And I'm really glad that you are with us this afternoon. A first note, please, to let you know that at the end of our presentations, we are going to have a Q&A period. So please raise your hand with your Zoom tool, and your name will be written in the order that it's received. And later I will call your name so that you may proceed and ask your question. So being said that, they have asked me why this event is important for the Academy of Catholic Thought and Imagination. And of course, my answer is not only lands in the preeminent importance of immersive storytelling, but also that we should be aware that spirituality must walk along the evolution of technology. And this idea is, it holds a dear place at ACTI, and it means that the sciences and the arts are both sacramental in the discernment of our own spirituality. Probably the most important symbolic representation of Christian spirituality after the cross is sitting at a table, departing bread, water, and wine. And it is clear that the multiplication of the loaves and fish defines richness of spirit as abundance for all. And in the sign of our times, abundance, unfortunately, is limited to those who can afford it. And sitting at the table is actually rushed through mostly in isolation. So unfortunately, institutions, a lot of institutions are based exclusively on time-efficient agendas to promote a culture in which sitting at a table is more of a necessity than an opportunity to commune, not only in spiritual terms, but also in the exchange of ideas based on a development of closer contacts, all framed by a table in abundance. In modern capitalism, time at the table is regarded as wasteful, and it is perceived as an interruption to the flow of working hours. A few years ago, Loyola Marymount actually inadvertently plunged into this idea of time efficiency by the elimination of convocation hour, or actually known as combo hour, which for some interrupted a continuous daily schedule of classes, and which in the past was an hour dedicated to give everyone a common hour of pause in our daily routines. So the word convocation actually has deep connotations of the advantages of communal experience around the celebratory ritual of a communal table. And convocation hour was also an opportunity to stop acceleration, pause, and find a collective moment of solace around the table with others. And I am saying all of these because today we are actually celebrating here at ACTI the fruition of a project that was born in great part at the communal table, literally speaking. I was there, and I have the right to say it because I was there when faculty and staff from two departments, animation and computer science, week after week, Tuesdays or Thursdays or both, joined around the table to share ideas and stories about common passions. Informally, at the beginning, it was informal at the beginning, and it became formalized as plans of joint ventures as it became more and more fruitful in its conversation. So interdisciplinarity does not come only from shared research and ideas or even agendas. It also comes from sharing common spaces, from developing personal connections and having access to common times. And this is where community is then built. Common passions and included conversations about the evolution of the sciences and the entertainment industry mark these conversations at this table between computer science and animation, about students who started actually double majoring or minoring in computer science and animation, about the writing on the wall that the future of education must be interdisciplinary, and that the will to collaborate will always be greater than the sum of the parts. This collaboration has only grown larger as both areas, animation and computer science, share a common thought, And that is that creativity is shared both by the arts and the sciences as a process of reflection, able to discern and solve problems through the elaboration of images in the mind. Such is the nature of the future, gaming beyond games, theory of games, artificial intelligence, the nature of puzzles and labyrinths, generative grammar, strings within strings, evolution of the mind, evolution of mankind, and ultimately spirituality and technology. At the front of this project, there were Tom and Ray, two friends at the table. Ray Toal is professor of computer science at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, where he has been teaching since 1986 and is currently serving as chair of the department. He received his PhD from UCLA in 1993 in semantics, with minors in theoretical computer science and database systems. His current research interests are in programming language design, compilers, APIs, and large-scale infrastructure. He has consulted for a number of companies in the Los Angeles area, including City Search, City Grid, Medaxis, FriendBuy, Handmade Mobile, MGO, Criteo, and Special X. Ray has authored 3 books on programming languages and has been involved with projects at the Human Advancement Research Community, HARC. And there's Tom Klein, is a professor of animation, serving as chair of the department from 2013 to 2020 within the LMU School of Film and Television. His work as a film historian has been written about in the New York Times, and his chapter on the influence of games on cinema appears in Animated Landscapes, History, Form, and Function, published by Bloomsbury. He's formerly a director of animation at Knowledge Adventure, the educational software division of Vivendi Universal Games. He was also a consultant for Universal Cartoon Studios during the productions of Woody Woodpecker, Fox Kids, and From the Earth to the Moon, HBO. He is the game designer of the app Pirate Ring for iOS. So, Ray, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Jose. Tom and I are each going to give a little introduction about our program and how it came to be. So I'll begin from the virtual reality and augmented reality side. One of the things about VR/AR is that it covers a wide range of human activities. We have VR/AR applications in health, in education, to help us better understand history. Sometimes virtual reality and augmented reality is called an empathy engine. VR and AR can be used for positive change. And, to riff on something very LMU-ish, VR/AR can be used to build the worlds we want to live in. A little bit about my background, computer science. I do enjoy this quote from Grady Booch, who talks about some of the more empirical or material sciences as studying the cosmos and all that is in it, reflecting on what they observe and reduce understandings to simplest principles. But he likes to say, I'm a computer science, I approach the cosmos through a very different path. I take the simplest of principles, information theory, logic, design, and from them, again, create new worlds that are bound only by my imagination. Imagination is, of course, the I in ACTI. Animation and computer science have been so close that we don't know when we started having our lunches together and started planning and starting our tradition of having CS majors minor in animation and animation majors minoring in CS with the occasional double major, but we figure it's around 2012. So we're coming up on a 10-year anniversary of close collaboration. Few images here. You see a group of half computer scientists and half animation worked on a popular game called Visions, KS, and Nongo. Another one, Heartwired. And it's really nice to see when animation does their senior projects at the end of the year, and everyone gathers together either in Meyer Theater or have a big group of students upstairs in the communication arts building all watching both the seniors do their final presentations and the first year students putting together all of their hand-drawn animations. it's just a joy to see such a large community. And Heartwired was a good example of a senior thesis done by a fairly large team of students, again, many from CS and many from animation. And here's another group of 2 computer scientists and 1 animation major. This is Maddie, Marissa, and Caitlin, who won first prize at a recent hackathon. Together, they built a game and they drove all the way out to Riverside to a large hackathon, won first place. Okay. A short little video. What else has LMU been doing in the area of virtual reality and augmented reality? Let me make sure well, can you hear this? Okay. Great, you'll remember this.
A reality.
It's very exciting.
Students have a lot of freedom.
AR, VR, 360 video. It's booming.
Hey, this is real.
From the first day of class, students are working as a team.
We stay ahead of the curve by ditching the textbook. We have students from Seaver Science and Engineering, CFA Design, SFTV film students, marketing students, entrepreneurship students, and we think that when we take all these people and then give them a problem to solve, that the results are even better than if we just had a homogenous group of people, and that's been totally true for this course.
We started with very broad, right? What is VR? What is AR? And then started to narrow that funnel throughout the process. And there's a project at the end of the year that each group had to do. I've seen the students start from the beginning, they were very apprehensive and nervous, to now diving in. And the final deliverable is a VR video based on a brief that they were given. I think these projects are going to have a broad impact.
Special collections departments are often viewed as secretive, like mysterious, hidden, or difficult to access. Lots of people don't know about it. With these VR projects, we are hoping to elevate awareness of archives and special collections at LMU, giving people who can visit us a virtual and unique glimpse into some of our greatest treasures.
We're working with a company actually named Spherica to be able to capture some amazing content. They're using drones, they're using rovers, and we're kind of getting an immersive experience of what it's like to be part of the LMU men's soccer team.
It gives people an opportunity from campus to find and look at all the different areas that diversity entails, heightening the awareness of individuals that the world is more than just their immediate group that they are part of.
It really is designed to empower individuals with disabilities to tell their own stories. There are a lot of people talk about VR as sort of an empathy engine, and we see the VR experience as a possibility of saying, hey, if you can really, for a moment, be in somebody else's skin and really experience what the world is like. Wow, I had no idea. I have a cousin with dyslexia. Holy mackerel, I had no idea.
We're using this immersive technology to help solve real-world problems in ways that have never been done before, and it's really cutting edge.
Okay, so that was a brief look into a class that was put together just a couple of years ago. Again, very, very interdisciplinary, but as a one-off class. So we're now looking at an opportunity where we can have not just a one-off class, but an entire program with curated classes and experience for students from all over the university. Because we're dealing with interaction, games, interaction, games, immersion, and we have IGI, named after Ignatius of Loyola, and our mascot, Iggy. Our IGI minor, immersive games and interaction, and well, we needed 4 characters, right? Because we are making a curriculum. We have IGIM, immersive interactive games and audiovisual media. We have so many different areas that we can cover. The guiding diagram for our work has been a collection of all of the different fields that we're interested in and all of the things that folks can do in this program. And we're quite excited about it. So I'm going to turn it over now to Tom.
Hello, everyone. It took me a second there. I wanted to talk a little bit about the kinds of conversations that we used to have at the lunch table at the Hill pre-pandemic, and why that was so significant, just to bringing faculty from the departments together, being able to talk about the richness of the student experience, and to start to really bridge the two departments, and what that kind of yielded just through having a way that we could be frequently in conversation, usually lunch on Tuesday and Thursday, and then with students in our departments becoming really great friends, collaborators, and ultimately major minors, which has led now to the development of IGI. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what animation kind of like brings to the table in terms of the landscape, building the visual worlds of these games. But I mean, in the spirit, Ray, of the kinds of great conversations that we would have after we just filled our plates with food at ILMU campus, I just wanted to sort of take a jump in and look at where games are now, and kind of where they came from. So this has kind of been the image that we've been using to promote the coming IGI minor. This is Jessica Yamada, 2019 graduate of now alumna of LMU, animation major, computer science minor. And this was a game that she developed in collaboration with Ren, and they made it called Roaring 2K. Really fascinating game. You can see here sort of an image of the game within the game. This, for me, represents kind of like where we're at. These are contemporary games. They're played on mobile. They're played on handhelds, console, PC games. But let's take a dive back to the earliest games. As long as there has been human civilization, people have told stories and they have invented and played games. So we have games that archaeologically, we know that they date back to even Babylon, over 4,000 years. This example here, I thought I would use a game that I've been fascinated with for much of my life. Has many names in different cultures. I'll just refer to it here as Mills. It's also called Mein Mens Morris, Mühle in German, on and on and on. Merrill's is a French name. This is carved into a slab of a Roman road. So we know that during downtime in ancient times, medieval, antiquity, Renaissance, people would do whatever they could in their leisure time and their downtime to play games. So this is this kind of interesting construct that we look at in this rich tradition, that has led us to the modern day. So in order to play a game, we know that humans are fascinated by competing with each other. And there is a real kind of intellectual endeavor that just enlivens us to be able to agree on this set of rules. And in the case of modern games, it can be imposed by the order that we see showing up on our screen. And this forms a rational system for the basis of play. So it becomes the logic of the game. Whereas you used to have these abstract strategy games, now we can really fulfill this promise of building out these gamescapes. And you can see right here, this is an example from Monument Valley. So by a developer. The original version was made by us2 over 5 years ago. And you might recognize this kind of spatial ambiguity that is harnessed here to make a really interesting kind of puzzle mechanic for a game. And when I was a kid, I used to just stare into these big books with illustrations of M.C. Escher. And the thinking that went into the artwork is very much a basis for kind of mathematical thought. And just as we have kind of a lot of animation nerds, computer science nerds, we feel like we are very like-minded. And I think that's one of the things that was amazing about kind of sitting down at the lunch table is we realized, hey, we're all nerds. We really like to discuss this world of ideas. There really is not left brain and right brain. There's kind of a brain where if you go too much in one direction, you meet again at the bottom of the circle. And of course, I mean, there's lots of fascinating game mechanics, that we observe from recent games. Here's an example, probably many of you are familiar with, from Portal, of having an input and an output. And you can jump into one of these portals, you leap out another, and it creates a fascinating game world with this mechanic where you have this linear momentum as whatever speed and angle that you come into one portal, you come out the other. And you can see from these examples here how you solve a variety of puzzles. This is just fascinating gameplay that actually creates a new type of world that we haven't observed. And we've seen this in cinema too. The very same mechanics that we see in forming a game like Portal, I saw some of that kind of linear momentum used in the chase sequence at the end of Monsters, Inc. So the animators had actually predated the game Portal with a lot of the puzzle solving that was used. So, frequently you can use the same things visually as you can do in gameplay. So another fascinating thing that I thought would be neat to bring up is this idea of glitches. I love glitches because they expose something really interesting about our thinking of worlds that we observe on screen. Here is a glitch from Assassin's Creed, and you think, clearly the rotational axis of this cart has been programmed wrong, so it comes sliding through, and now half of the cart is buried in the ground as it moves. And if this happened in the real world, we would panic and scream. But in a game, we rejoice because we recognize that we have seen a flaw in the programmed world. But let's think about some of the most ambitious visions that we've ever seen on film. One of them being 2001, A Space Odyssey. I always love this movie because I'm basically exactly as old as the movie. So every time it celebrates an anniversary, so do I. And so I came in with Moon Landing and 2001, A Space Odyssey. I'm fascinated by this stuff. And in this vision, we see, the astronaut, David Bowman, go down this Stargate sequence. And you can look at this as some sort of breach of reality. Of course, in the movie, it is reasoned to be this first contact with aliens. And we see it only in terms of this kind of breakdown in the structure of our known universe, as suddenly this astronaut heads down this corridor of light. And ultimately it's built upon the monolith, ends up with that fascinating Kubrick directed final sequence. But if we think about aspects of the film in terms of how we see this play out in a game or the real world, there's also the HAL 9000 computer, and in the game beats the astronaut very handily in chess. They're already dueling, they're playing a game, then they play a vicious, deadly game. And we have always looked at the idea of the HAL 9000 computer is the glitch. It's a glitch, it glitched out. And ultimately it, distorted its mission and decided that it reasoned itself that killing the astronauts was worthwhile. But the birth of the Star Child is reasoned in the film to be a miracle. But you could actually flip those and it's just our own perception that creates this idea of the glitch or the miracle, which is really fascinating. This is where I wanted to take the advantage of a presentation to the Academy of Catholic Thought and Imagination to point out a book written in 1978 that's called Biblical Games. And it applies a game theory study to the Bible, and it tries to reason in game mechanic terms many of the events and bring an additional kind of theoretical meaning, or actually, as you can see from the subtitle of the book, a strategic analysis of stories from the Old Testament. That's fascinating to me. And my presentation's almost over. I just wanted to leave you with a thought. So, as we approach this in our collaborative manner, animators, working with computer scientists, visualizing a world, having our collaborators work with the code to develop something. And in this iterative analysis, we find glitches and we fix them, and we do our best to impose a world. And we know that it is one of the great human activities to engage in strategy and try to show that you are the smarter of the players. And we can look at this in terms, even from Genesis, we can look at like original sin being a foundational thing that an opponent was able to game the system. And it's part of, in game design, this would be a normal iterative design that we work through. So these are some of the foundational things, the conversations that we have that really supercharge us. But I love the idea that even though we're working with technology and we are innovating new things in immersive space, new types of gameplay, and certainly from our animation perspective to create new characters, new worlds that we've never seen, so that the rules of the game become almost invisible because you just perceive them visually as you walk through a space, and the feedback is given the same way it is here in the real world. It happens or it doesn't. We can create action or we cannot. And that's where we kind of leave ourselves. We have a really amazing opportunity here now with IGI. And there's so many people to thank. I want to thank certainly people in other departments as well. Sue Scheibler, for instance, from media studies, as well as Missy Kressbach, and also Marianne Krowich from screenwriting, teaches the writing for video games. And big thanks to somebody who really has bridged the two departments, animation and computer science, and that is Josh Morgan, who in fact he has taught many cross-listed courses. And so it's with a real salute to Josh, who has helped bring this about. And I really also want to just say the students were able to basically do the initial steps to create this minor for us. So we were able to see it, and we took a lot of steps and actually tried it out. So we'll talk more about that in the Q&A, but thank you to everybody, the administrations who helped put this together. So I just wanted to say, coming next academic year, we will be initiating the interactive gaming immersive media minor. All right, that's it for me. I hope I didn't go too long.
Excellent. Thank you so much, you both. And I would like to add, in terms of the multitasking capacity of Joshua Morgan, we also got the menus for the Hill in advance, because he actually went and find the site, and we knew what we'll be expecting in terms of launch for that magical table that happened at the Hill. So okay, so we have I already have a couple of questions here which were actually emailed in advance. I just want to if you allow me, if I may, I want to actually start the conversation by asking there's the graph that actually Ray actually created for Iggy is a graph of interconnectivity between these areas, right? So this is a question for Tom and Ray. If there's all this interconnectivity, what is at the center of it all?
Ray.
You're asking what is at the center? What is at the center of the diagram?
Yes.
So that diagram, should I bring that diagram back up? Why don't I bring that back up? And Josh, feel free to chime in too as soon as I get it back up, as Josh was one of the creators of this diagram.
I was gonna say, being there, like that diagram started as a whiteboard that happened with a meeting with Sieber Dean Cho and SFTV Dean Reisky. We were meeting just kind of to really formalize a lot of these long existing ongoing conversations. And that, I think, was the moment when a lot of this minor really started to become concrete and something that we could actually make happen. We literally just sort of whiteboarded a version of this on the fly it evolved out of an exercise that we do in the game design class, but took it to that extra level of making sure to include immersive and audiovisual media. And usually it's just, in our definition of what is a game, but this, I don't know, I just love this diagram.
No, it's true, because you could, if you're only thinking about the red circle, if you're only thinking about games, then you forget the different aspects of games. And you realize that interaction and immersion is so much more than just what can be done in games. And as we shuffled the things around, we tried to capture just about every possible overlapping connection and found that things fit. So in the very center, there are cinematic AR, VR, and XR games. So that's trying to move the sometimes possibly more passive experience of just watching film, television, or video, but adding immersion, interactivity, and then making a game about it. And the interaction in the game is very important. We want to have people have a sense of agency when either they're playing or learning, and empathy through immersion. But we want to create professional media as well. I mean, all of these things are important. They all need to be considered together, not just in isolation.
For me, one of the central things is the idea of either free play or competitive play. And I think that's an intriguing thing as we move into the future. Oftentimes when there's free play, if there's just sort of world building, but it doesn't feel like there's particular quest or reason for being in the world, it gets boring. And gameplay has been something that I think just so consistently has held up through different types of games over millennia, where we really like to win. And I mean, I know there's different things, and there's a whole genre of games called serious games, which allows us to interact or kind of use a game structure, or sometimes even co-op play, to look at potential real world issues and maybe even look at ways to solve it. But I think we're compelled by the idea of win or loss.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. And just a little note to what Tom was saying in terms of biblical games. It just came to me that the rabbi of Prague, when it actually sets in motion the golem, the Hebrew letters in the creature's head read emet, right, which means truth. But if you take out the e, it means dead. So there's like the idea that that the existence of a golem or artificial intelligence is a mixed blessing, right? So the first question to you guys is, this is from John Kissel. And is there a knowledge base that Iggy students will need to learn and apply? That's the first part of the question. And the second one is, being LMU, is there an ethical focus that enters into the curriculum?
I'll start.
Okay.
No, there's nothing that we expect students to bring in if they're accepted, other than, you know, a willingness to learn, a willingness to grow, the growth mindset and all that stuff. You know, we do have the introductory programming course there, and there is, and Tom can speak more about the animation requirements. Yes, because you will be going on to more advanced animation classes, the portfolio will have to be developed, and there will be some work done at the beginning, perhaps. I'll let Tom speak more to that. And as far as the ethical component goes, the courses, I mean, there are a lot of ethics courses throughout the university. Philosophy has a number, computer science has computing ethics and human context course, engineering has engineering ethics. Yes, we do plan on having an ethical component to a lot of the courses. I mean, as the students do their final project, why they're putting together their final project, who it's for. In the introductory computer science classes, there's always a unit on ethics too. As computing is done for people, by people, and subject to human biases and the like. So kick it over to Tom for what do they have to know in animation?
I mean, one of the components from School of Film and Television is an analysis and study of video games through our media studies department. And that is a critical aspect of the review of games, understanding what the messaging within games can do, because we have such wide consumption of games, and just a realization of the societal impact, and to discuss and bring awareness to that. So that is important. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention about what people would need for the minor, there are different paths that are like still available. So I do want to say that IGI is sort of a very practical kind of roll up your sleeves minor. The idea of like, yes, you can come into it with a different area of interest, a different major, but then you will actually take the CS courses, the SFTV and the anim courses, and that the idea really is to create enough knowledge base to be able to make a game then. And that there are other venues, if for instance you are really more interested in media studies or an approach of writing and interpreting games, then you may actually look at media studies as your minor. So there's a couple different options within that, but we're excited to roll this out, and we'll be having a conversation, and glad to talk to students to see if it's the right fit, or if, for instance, you're maybe more interested in the visual development side, and you could be an animation minor. I mean, I just wanted to say that we've been accommodating students with an interest in this for a while through the CS and the anim minors, but we were recognizing that there was a space between that now warranted having this special new minor, but we can always consider what we have available currently.
Can I jump in about the ethics
aspect
of it? So I've just been thinking a lot about the games that students have made in the game development, and especially the advanced interactive classes. And there was a time when I had, and I still kind of, it's an informal rule, but I have the no shooting, no guns rule. Part of that has to do with just, I got bored of projectiles, although I love doing a trigonometry lecture. But also just because of gun violence, there were several high profile game-related, video game related instances of violence. And it just found that it's not as interesting to have shooting in games. Guns, violence, it's problematic. Not to say that the video games cause violence. I think video games are, as an art form, a reflection of the society. But what's interesting, having taught at multiple universities and now focusing on teaching at LMU, I've seen that the games that our students make are different than at other schools. And for example, a couple of years ago, a student, Lucille, who's class of 2021. Her game in the Unity class, the game dev class, was a homelessness simulator where you play as a homeless person and are interacting with people and sort of seeing the world through through somebody who's housing insecure. And that's really sort of special to, and I think potentially unique to just LMU as an institution and as a environment that, you know, students take ethics and they're thinking ethically, they're thinking about their place in the world, and they're thinking about what they create and how, you know, it will be perceived by an audience. And it's, I don't know, it's just a completely different sort of mindset that our students have. And I've definitely been trying to consciously foster that ethical thinking.
Thank you, Josh. The next question is from Maria Vicerano. I'm sorry if I'm just, you know, blotching your name. Will you be helping students find internships in the video game industry down the road? I teach an internship class at LMU, though at different department, and I am a researcher in the video game industry. It would be so cool to connect students in the minor with local opportunities.
Yes, and please. we have supported internships. We have had you know, people who graduated from both majors, you know, have certainly gone into the local game industry. We're certainly lucky that there is a pretty robust industry nearby. But Maria, let's talk. I mean, we always want to hear about new opportunities. So thank you for reaching out.
One more is from Michael Elias, class 2022. He's wondering if there's already syllabi for the courses, analysis of video games, video game writing, VR studio, and also if which he thinks that they will likely be taught during the spring semester as well. It's a little bit of a question. I'm trying because as he's trying to plan out for fall 2021, spring 2022. So is there any way for students to actually see the content of the courses already or not?
These are existing courses. So yes, the descriptions already exist, you know, in the various departments and on the websites. But as far as them being connected, formally recognized as the IGI minor, that's going to be happening as soon as this appears in the bulletin this summer. And then when the registrar formalizes that in degree works, in a sense. I mean, we literally can't sign people up because it's not programmed in, but we know it's coming. And all of these courses, these are composed of courses that are currently taught. So yes.
So there's a correction here from Michael. I wanted to ask which of the upper division are being taught during the spring?
Well, the CS is going to offer game development in the spring. That's the CMSI 3752. That's one that's actually cross-listed with animation. I can't speak to the screenwriting, film, television, and animation for spring.
I could talk about the screenwriting.
Oh, Adriana.
Yeah.
Adriana. Okay.
So it seems that the screenwriting started every semester. The writing for video games is taught every semester. VR, remember that's going to be changing the title to Immersive Media Studio. We're going to put that in the books in the spring. Yes.
So also there are some questions from students regarding registration. Will they be able to register for classes for this minor soon? Because many of the classes are restricted to certain majors.
I've been meeting with the students interested in Iggy. So I already have a list of the students who are interested in certain majors. So I already passed that along to our administration.
And which I guess what program will be taught for the Intro to Interactive class? I assume is like the software.
Adobe Animate and JavaScript.
The introductory computer science courses will be either JavaScript or Python, depending on who's teaching it.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
I guess as Tom said, the curriculum is made up of existing courses, but there is some element of choose your own path through it. You know, there's 2 gateway courses, and then there's a selection of 2 courses you have in the middle tier, and then a selection of 2 out of 4 courses at the end. So there is some, students can customize a little bit if they want to. And for the first couple of years, interested students, when accepted to the program, will be meeting with Dr. Jurosevich, who you just heard from a few minutes ago, who's currently the animation chair. We've had this agreement where for 2 years, students see the animation chair, and 2 years later, they see the computer science chair. So we're trying to share the governance as much as we can without making it difficult for the students. But all students in the program, you know, we'll have an advisor. I mean, any one of the faculty associated with this program will be more than happy to talk to the students and help them plan their pathway through it. And as far as courses being restricted to majors only, I'm not aware. I know on the computer science side, there are no prerequisites for the computer science courses that are part of this curriculum, other than you do have to take the Gateway Computer Science course before you can do the data structures, the interaction design class. And then the game design and game development courses, these are the 2 that are cross-listed, have been for many years cross-listed between computer science and animation. We generally have people take game design before game development. So there's a little bit of sequencing in there, but none of the ones that I'm aware of are restricted to majors only. You might have found a section of introductory computer science that is restricted to majors only, because introductory computer science is a very popular course at LMU, and we do reserve some sections for majors only and a number of other sections for non-majors. So if you see a course that seems to be restricted to majors only, look for another section. It should be fine.
Greg Russin from the School of Film and TV is asking us if production students may participate in the minor, because they love games as well.
I can say, you know, I've been meeting with the students interested, and there's quite a bit of production students who probably will sign up for the minor. Yes.
Yeah, historically,
I'm grateful. Adriana, our department chair, is increasing the amount of the animation gateway course that we'll be offering. We're actually doubling it for next year, anticipating that we will be accommodating students outside our major. So we're sort of looking at that and trying to get ahead of it. We don't know if we'll be able to immediately accommodate based on the, you know, what the interest is, but I'm just telling everybody that we're trying to make more openings, and we have accommodated in the past. There have been certainly, Greg, we've had production and screenwriting majors, and you know, and even from outside SFTV who have been interested, and we've made that allowance.
Yeah, historically, there have been tons of SFTV non-animation students in the game classes. In fact, right now, I think the history and analysis of video games class, I think a good third of the class are non-animation SFTV students, screenwriting and production. The VR class has had tons of production students in it. Yeah, there's a lot of, and then a lot of RECA, because there's a recording arts class that didn't make it into the minor, but is, you know, recording it's sound for video games, and we've had tons of students that have found the game development class, or vice versa. They take one class before the other. A lot of cross-pollination there.
I have a question, 2 questions. The first one, if you have seen during all these years, 10 years, I think we have been in this process, if you have seen a trend in the way, obviously because now newer generations are learning how to code really at a younger age, right? Now it's becoming like an elementary kind of thing. And if that is actually changing the way in which we create games, we interact with games. And the second question is if there has been a modification in the gender balance in computer science. Is it, what is the balance now in terms of gender?
Oh, where to start? All right, so I think there were two parts to that question. Has the younger age, which people are learning how to program, and the understanding that programming is another form of literacy today, and how has that changed the way games are developed? And then what is the gender balance in computer science? Well, we're a relatively small computer science program. If you look at us compared to a number of universities across the country, there were somewhat of a larger major in Seaver. We have about 170 majors in computer science. We have over 60 minors. The gender balance varies because we're small enough from year to year. So we're about 40% women in the senior class, but then we drop down below 30 in the junior class. And does that mean there's any big trend of people going down? No, we just vary from time to time. Like 7 or 8 years ago, we were 37% women. You go back a few years, there were times we graduated only one. So it's hard to say, for LMU. But in the entirety of the United States, it's relatively low. It's come up from its bottom in 2007, which was an abysmal 11 or so percent. Like 1984 was 37% women nationwide, went down to about 11%. It's been kind of crawling back up. It's plateauing in the high 20s right now. Computing as a form of literacy, that's a pretty interesting question, because just the nature of what it means to program right now it's changing. It changes every year. Sometimes you hear people talking about low code and no code, trying to get robots to write code, other programs to write code, to write games, to make up games based on a massive amount of existing games that exist in the world, trying to throw some machine learning at it and see if you could just have a robot write a game. So there's so much going on. Our job as professors, of course, is to keep up with all those trends, get them into our courses, have the students work on them, and try to stay a little bit ahead of industry in terms of what we're thinking about. But it does open up the world to you. That you will probably write a different quality of games if you learned how to program when you were 4 versus if you learn it straight. But I don't know. But everybody's really different, and I would never claim that students that have programmed earlier in life are going to be any better. They may be different, but you should never walk away from trying to program because you got started late. People. Good programmers come from any background, anywhere, anytime. So maybe it changes, but I haven't seen any direct indication. I have not enough statistical background.
Right. It's just a follow-up. So Ray, what makes a good programmer? Because my son is 11 and he's taking some coding stuff already. But what makes a good programmer? I love hearing that they can come from anywhere. But
well, even the term a good programmer is subjective, because the kind of quote programs you do in one discipline may be very different from others. The only universals that I would say exist in the world of, say, programming is that as long as you keep in mind that programs are written by people for people, they are a form of literacy, they're a form of communication and expression, is that you want your creation, you want your software to be able to be read by people, understood by people, and you really want people to riff on it. One of the things I love about computer science as a field is a heck of a lot of software that's written is free. It's written by people who post it to public repositories like GitHub, and if people copy their work and they use it and they riff on it and they make changes to it, that makes the programmers happy. And a good program will be one that people will want to use, will enjoy reading, will see that there's some elements of creativity in it, that it was written for a purpose, that it was going to be given to other people. that's usable, expressive, and has an element of fun and creativity in it. That would be like the public software. If you're writing software for medical devices, then correctness is more important than anything. I mean, going to deliver radiation to a patient, or you're going to steer a spaceship or something like that. The good one is the one that works. So it kind of depends on the field. It's all contextual, like everything is. But I would focus, my advice to young programmers would be, you're writing, you're expressing yourself, you're saying, this is what I want to see happen. This is, I'm building a little something. Show that it is readable, understandable, fun. I mean, it's got to look good. When you read software, it's like, you know, a bad paper, bad article when you see, you know, a bad screenplay, right? I guess the bad program is one where you're like, I don't really know what it's saying. So clarity, expressivity, creativity. Hope that answers the question.
Oh, thank you. Beautifully. Thanks, Ray.
One of the forces that's really changing things as far as young people diving in to become either animators or coders is just the proliferation and wider usage of freeware and open source, free software. It used to be that, you know, major companies were the gatekeepers, and, you know, one of the reasons you even, you know, came to LMU is, and really justified this tuition, is because we had all of this stuff. Now, of course, there are still many reasons, and we've been able to maintain an incredible sort of cutting edge lab space with equipment. But the reality is that a lot of young people can really, you know, hop in the sandbox and try stuff out. And it's really given the major software developers a run for the money, because free is not bad anymore. And yes, we have, to answer a previous question too, there has really been such an encouraging surge in the amount of young women who are, you know, I mean, in animation over a 10-year period, the gender balance has really flipped. And, you know, and so it's certainly the challenge of industry to catch up. But I think that's going to be such a changing force in the types of games that are made, and, you know, kind of bringing just a new vision, passion, and you know, we'll see some great things coming in future. But I mean, just even from the looking at the game that was made in 2019, Jessica Yamada. Looking at Heartwired, which Ray showed in his presentation, you know, Sasha was such a driving force of that, Greg as well, and we're seeing these incredible game developers who are young women, and you know, they're gonna change the space. So it's exciting.
This is already 3 o'clock, and I don't want to abuse anyone's agenda. So if we have some final thoughts, I know that there's a question from Salim from CS regarding if she took 3D but not interactive, if she's able to declare the new interactive minor. So I guess that we should get in contact with her and probably explain that to her directly. Any final thoughts if you want to wrap up, you know, something, Tommy, Ray, Josh, of course.
Well, just thank you for the opportunity. And I wanted to say, you know, really a lot of people, I was the invited guest, you know, with Ray, but this was built of just a lot of people. You know, I want to, you know, certainly thank our deans. I want to thank, you know, my chair, Adriana. I want to thank all my colleagues, including Jose, Shane, you know, others. We have people who have been contributed, even if they're not currently teaching, like Eric Elder, you know, Ana Carolina Guerrera. I mean, on and on and on. And all of the students, like I said, it's too many to name, but I'm just speaking for a lot of people, and in many ways by just, I think, being flexible, discussing over lunch. We keep talking about the lunches that we had between the departments, And, you know, through that flexibility, kind of letting students navigate a lot of this for us, and then going, oh, we didn't know we could do that. Didn't know that would work. I even remember the first time we had a double major. We had to tell that student, we think it can be done. Bear with us as we try to like pull the obstacles out of your way. And you know, that was a student named Gaston. That's a while back. He's working at Riot Games now. Yeah. But it's really, I just wanted to say how important it was that the student initiative and innovation allowed us to get to this realization in this moment. So, you know, for alumni and current students who are here, I salute you. This was made by you.
And thanks to Emmylou for bringing this together.
Yes, Emmylou, thank you.
We do also, Tom, have some both animation and CS faculty who have either moved on or no longer with us that were a big part in planning what we have today. Who was it that went to USC recently or something? What was her name? The animator. She was in some of our earlier discussions too. Don't remember. Part-time animation teacher.
I know exactly who you mean because we had lunch a lot, but I can't remember her name.
God, we're getting old. Okay, right.
Excellent.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Greg from film also with us many times too, talking about what we could do together. Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for sharing this afternoon with us. It's great. Interdisciplinarity is the future of education. Making friends within the area of the beautiful campus that we have. It's if we don't create these personal connections, a lot of it is lost. So we should, you know, when we go back finally from this pandemic, it's going to be something that I will cherish forever, having a, you know, a closer contact with all of you. Thank you again. And we have recorded this, so tell everyone that they can actually, you know, watch this conversation at their own leisure. And thank you again, and hope to see you soon in another ACTI event.